What's going on, my beautiful friends? Welcome to Module 8. This is Nathan Barna here, founder of Life Magic, where we help you realize your dreams. We help you realize the process of manifestation, help you connect to your soul to get in alignment with your purpose and your vision so that you can have the impact that you want to have, and you can have all the tools that you need to make your vision real and be the best that you can possibly be in all areas of your life. So that's my little spiel on the life magic. So this is module 8 today, and today is all about trying on new experiences, the trap and the freedom of ideas. So we're going to get into the whole ideas and really what, like, the concept of ideas, and then how to use ideas, but also how ideas can use you. And so you could be mindful of that, so you can actually try on ideas and use them to create new experiences for yourself. So it'll be a pretty fun one today. And before we go any further, I want to remind you, like, these modules build on one another. So if you're just joining us, then I would invite you to maybe go back to module 1 and kind of go through each one step by step so you don't get lost in this, because we're going to be referring to different concepts that we have already covered, and I won't go into super duper deep depth in those concepts because they were covered in previous modules. So go ahead and go back to module 1, or if you're staying in tune, or either way, the way that I create these is that you can still get the benefit out of them even if you haven't watched all of them. So you can still hang out, or if you've been staying on track, then welcome. You are in the right place. So I first want to start off with just a little bit of a background into kind of where this whole idea of trying on new ideas, trying on new experiences came from. And when I was kind of like thinking about, what was a story that related to this? When was that specific moment in my life that I kind of had that epiphany? I came back to when I was first really getting into my athletic career. This was maybe almost probably like 10 years ago, maybe like 9-ish. But either way, I was in this process of I was trying to lose some weight. I put on some weight, and I'd also developed some health challenges. I had fungal infection. I mean, if you can imagine, you had spots all over your skin, and you're just itching all over every day, and it feels like your skin's crawling, and every time you eat something, you just get tired, and then you notice your different parts of your skin is itching. You got this fungal stuff, and it looks like eczema or psoriasis and ringworm. It was gross. But anyways, I was going through that, and I was really trying to figure out, well, how am I going to resolve this? And I was like, well, maybe if I just lose some weight. And so I started doing what I knew how to do at the time, which is what most people teach you how to do, which is okay, I'm going to count some calories. I'm going to, and get my macros in line so that I can be in a caloric deficit. And that way I can drop some weight and hopefully clear this stuff up. Because I was eating decent quality food. And, I kind of touched on this in other places, but I realized that the deeper issue wasn't being actually addressed, which is why I kept having issues with this. But I was doing what I thought that I should be doing. And once I realized that, going through that process, keeping track of my calories, counting my macros and tracking my macros, that I wasn't really seeing the results that I was hoping for. I'd maybe lose a little bit of weight, but the problems were still there. And then I would start losing strength, and I would feel depleted. And so inevitably I'd want to start eating more again to feel better. And so I kept riding this roller coaster up and down, over and over again, going around and around in circles, until I finally realized there's something I'm missing here. And then I was like, well, maybe the whole idea of having to ride this roller coaster of losing weight, being in a caloric deficit, and tracking my macros to then feeling like shit to then increasing my calories and then gaining weight to feel better, but then the problems were still there regardless. Maybe that whole idea is wrong. What if, and this is where I started to just ask myself different questions. What if there's a possibility that I could lose weight and get stronger and build muscle and heal this fungal infection or whatever? I didn't even know it, that's what it was at a time, but I could heal whatever this was all at the same time. And so that was the question that I started to ask myself. And the cool thing is, when you start asking better questions, you start getting better answers. And so once I started to ask myself that question, it started to open my eyes to different ways of looking at things and different ways of going about things. And I started studying a lot more. I started studying like holistic nutrition. I started studying Paul Chek's work a lot more. And I started studying a lot more material that had to do with being healthy versus just trying to manipulate your body composition in a certain way. And I soon realized that, and this was kind of the big epiphany with that aspect, is that being healthy and making my choices based on what was going to help my body be the healthiest that it could be, that was at the root of all of the other things. Because, this makes sense, and it's like no shit in hindsight, but by definition, a healthy body is one in which disease cannot exist. And so if I just focused on my health, then it would clear up all the other things, and my body would just balance out, and it would get rid of unneeded fat, and I would have the resources to be able to create whatever I wanted to create with my body, whether that was to get stronger, build muscle, or whether that was to, just overall increase my performance in the way that I was feeling. Whatever that was, I just had to focus on being healthy. And so that was really when I realized, like, if you ask different questions and if you're open to new ideas, these new ideas can create new experiences, because all of the choices that we make are based off of our perspectives and the way that we are thinking about things, which is related to the ideas or the stories and the beliefs that we have about ourselves, about the vehicle that we're using to make these different changes and go about life, these different kind of techniques, these different tools, as well as our ideas about how the world works and the world that we live in. And these are all, again, they're all just ideas. Even, you can even, if you want to take this further, you can even start to question, well, am I just an idea? And is this whole experience just an idea? And I won't give you the answer here. That's something, you can meditate on, but just, go into that. Is this whole experience is just an idea? And if it is, because there's always the potential, if it is, then the cool thing is that if it's all an idea and ideas can be changed, that means that I can change my ideas to match what the reality is that I want to create for myself. And so the first kind of step in that, though, is you have to be aware of what's actually going on. If we just go about our life and we're not actually aware of the thoughts in our head and how we're creating our own circumstances through our thoughts, words, and our actions, then all these things are happening unconsciously, and we're essentially creating our reality unconsciously. And so step one is you have to grow your awareness. And now this is where in the other modules I talk about specific ways to do that. But in general, through different spiritual practices, like even just meditation in general, is a practice that can help you to grow your awareness, help you to grow that witness. Here's the hand again. Help you to grow that witness aspect of yourself, to be able to see what's going on. And so once you can see what's going on, then you can change it. And so once you're able to identify all of those different stories and all of those different ideas, then you need to realize the potential that you actually have, so that you can create ideas and insert ideas that are in line with that potential. Because if my belief, because we kind of have beliefs, and then we have like deeper beliefs that those beliefs are built upon. So we might believe that I can change my ideas, but if our deeper belief is that we only have this certain level of potential, and we only view ourselves as being able to accomplish a certain level of something, and only being capable of a certain level of something, then we are only going to be able to match our ideas and our beliefs to whatever that limit is that we put upon ourselves. So it's not just enough to become aware and to identify. We also need to have a knowing, and again, this is all ideas. We also need to have a knowing of what we are truly capable of and the potential that we have. And if this is all just an idea, and if you just imagine, you can literally think about anything, you can imagine anything, you can have an idea about anything. And so that capacity to imagine and to have ideas is limitless. And if it's all an idea, then that means that the potential that we have is limitless. Because just the sole fact that we can think about something, then it exists at some level, even if just in a potential. Because if you can think about it, there's a potential there, because it's something that can be at least conceived of in the mental realm, in the imaginal space. And so knowing that the perspective, or that the potential is limitless, you can adopt that perspective, and therefore you can match your ideas to that perspective. And then the next step here, once you realize that your potential is limitless, and you've kind of grown your awareness, and you can see what's going on, and you're starting to kind of change the different ideas that you have about things, is to really to study other people's ideas. And this is really, once you get to a certain point in your own kind of knowing, your knowledge about things, because in my own studies personally, you get to a place where you kind of understand the root level of things, because that's been a lot of my journey, is let me get down to the root. Because if you know the one thing, if you can understand the foundation of everything, then you know how everything else is built upon that. If you can understand the basic principles that everything is operating under, then by default you can understand how everything operates. Even though you may not have super specific knowledge about the kind of the surface level things, you can at least have a knowing of the principles that all of that stuff is built upon, which is pretty cool. Because then at that point, like for me personally, I don't so much read to gain new information in the sense of like new and novel knowledge, or just ideas. I'm reading more so to be exposed to different ideas. And yes, there's a lot of ideas that I've never heard of before. I'm not saying I know everything, but I expose myself to new ideas, not so that I can just start to blindly believe things, but so that I can grow my awareness of the potential of ideas that other people have already thought about, and other people have already had the ideas of, so then I can choose if I want to adopt those ideas. You know, like when I started studying Paul Chek, and I started realizing that, you know, my health and the food that I was eating ultimately came down to the soil. Because if you trace it back, you know, where's all this food coming from? And so if the soil isn't healthy, then the food that's coming from, and then the animals, and then us that eat the plants and the animals, if those aren't healthy, we're not going to be healthy. And so it was a different idea for me. And then when I tried that idea on, I realized more and more that it was true. And it kind of becomes this self-feedback loop in a sense, because, you know, if you ever heard of the placebo effect, where if you believe something, then there's a chance that you, just through your belief, it could actually be true. And so you can use that same power in the positive sense, because you can choose to believe in something, and because you choose to believe in it, the chances of it actually becoming your reality are increased. Now there's kind of like this deeper layer of reality that, again, these principles, that if you kind of go against the basic principles, then the shit really ain't gonna work. But other than that, if you can choose to believe in it, you can take action and have the intention towards that, you can quite literally create a new reality for yourself, just in the same way that, you know, I did when I chose to believe a different way of taking care of my body. And there's a lot of different other examples. So that's the reason that it's important to study a lot of different people and study a lot of different ideas, because you want to expose yourself, kind of like a big tool bag. You've got a big tool bag of all these different ideas that you can try on, and that you can see which ones work for whatever specific job, because you can have certain ideas about one area of life that work but may not necessarily work in another area of life, and so that you can use different ideas for different circumstances in your life to, again, it all goes back to creating the experience that you want. And part of this at a deeper level is also getting clear on, well, what do you actually want? And this is something I kind of touched on previously and will continue to unfold. But what is your ultimate vision for yourself? And what is the purpose behind that vision? Why is it important for you to realize that vision? Because that's ultimately going to be kind of the blueprint for how you're basing if the ideas that you're holding on to are actually beneficial. Are they actually creating more of what you say you want in your life? Are they creating the experience that you say you want for yourself? If you don't know what that experience is, you don't know what you want for yourself, then it's going to be hard to gauge whether or not these ideas are working for you. All right? And so when you do try these different ideas on, it's important to, you have to try things on long enough to know if they actually work. You know, just like when you're trying on clothes in a store, it's like you have to actually kind of fully embody that experience, fully embody those ideas to a point where you can know for sure and have that feedback on the physical level to know if these things are working for you. And a little pro tip here, my being an athlete and my training regimen is actually part of my own feedback loop in the physical space, because it's, you know, no matter how cool I think my ideas are, I have that direct feedback on if things are working, because I can tell if my performance is increasing or if it's decreasing. And so I know if my ideas are working, if my ideas are actually in line with what the experience that I want to create, then my performance will increase. If they're not, I'm going to feel it and I'm going to get weaker, things are going to feel heavier. So for me, being an athlete is that feedback loop, but because it's something that's very physical, but you can have anything that can act as that feedback loop. And this is why it's important to do things that you love to do, because you'll be more willing to engage in the challenges even when things don't necessarily go the way that you plan them to. And so those things can become your feedback loop to know if your ideas are working or not. All right? And on the other side of that is being aware of dogma, being aware of isms, which are really essentially like closed belief systems. Because if you try on an idea and it works, especially if it works for a certain period of time, if it works for a long period of time, you may fall into the trap of seeing that idea as fact, and then therefore never questioning that idea again. You know, a very common example that comes to me is like with diets again, where like with veganism, where somebody might switch to veganism and eating in that way, and it works for them for a long while, and maybe they weren't eating very good quality foods before, and just by switching to veganism, they're actually paying more attention to the quality of the food that they're eating. And so it might be very healing for them for a certain period of time, and because they noticed a benefit initially, they might then draw the conclusion that this is the one way to do this thing. And therefore, you know, the ism comes in, the dogma comes in, because now there's this closed belief system of this is the one way, there's no other way. And now you just limit all your potential. And then if you get to a point where that thing stops working and you're still trapped in that belief system, then you may not allow yourself to open back up to explore different ideas. And this is where the pain teacher comes in. And it's like, okay, you know, you've had this idea, it's not working anymore, and it's time to change ideas, but you're stuck on this idea. Now it's a dogma, now it's an ism, now it's a religion that you are stuck on. And so now you're creating a different experience because this thing is no longer serving you anymore. So trying things on long enough to know if they work, but also knowing when it's time to change your ideas and being open enough to continue to question all of these things. Because like literally on a continual basis, on a daily basis, any belief, I believe Paul Chek says this, any belief worth living is worth challenging every single day. That's how you know you're not bullshitting yourself. And again, for me, being an athlete is part of my challenging process. But at the very least, just asking yourself, you know, is this really working for me? Or am I bullshitting myself here? And this is where like having coaches can help out, and having different mentors can help out, because sometimes it's easy to see, it's easy to miss our own blind spots and kind of trick ourselves into thinking that things are working when they're actually not. But having a more objective point of view, somebody on the outside to be like, yo, you're bullshitting yourself, can help us to move through that process more quickly, so we don't have to, you know, invite the pain teacher in over and over again to help us grow our awareness. But again, some people, that's what we need to do. And so that might be the necessary step for you to learn what you need to learn in whatever that process is. Okay, so last little bit here for trying on new experiences is recognizing the difference between intellect and knowledge. And so, you know, for me, intellect is I read this book, I read this article, I saw this thing, and then there's this idea that is just in this mental space in my mind, and then because that idea sounds cool, then I believe it without actually trying it. Because this is like the kind of the big caveat here to this whole thing. Just because you have this idea and you're like, oh, this idea sounds cool, doesn't mean that you've actually gone through the process of trying it to know if it actually works for you. And that's where the knowledge comes in. Once you take that idea and you actually apply it so that you can gain a direct experience, that's when it becomes a knowing. That's when you gain wisdom. And the analogy that I like for this one is, you know, if you could read every single book about sex that has ever been written, and you can have all these ideas about what you think sex is, but until you've actually had sex, you don't know what sex is. You just have ideas about what you think it is or what other people's experiences said that it was, but you've never actually experienced it for yourself. And on the other side of that, you can have somebody that's never read a book about sex in their life. They have no ideas about it, but they've had sex. That person actually knows what sex is because he or she has had that direct experience. And so be mindful of that. Once you get these ideas, implement them. And that's why in this course, if you're a part of the Life Magic Alchemy Tribe, we're not just, it's not just a bunch of information. I know I give these modules out as my kind of free service here, but again, these are all ideas. We need ways to put these into practice. In the Life Magic Alchemy Tribe, we have systems to be able to get exposed to ideas and then immediately put them into action and then get immediate feedback so that we can know if that idea is working or not. Because you can create systems in your life to help you take ideas to actual experience very quickly, so you can very quickly get feedback to know if you can stick with that idea and keep doing it, keep trying it, keep getting the experience of it, or it's time to switch ideas. Because the faster you can go through that process, the faster you'll be able to, make progress and see the results and know if those ideas need to be changed or if you should keep doing them. So to recap here, kind of just to give you the overview of everything again. So firstly, you got to grow your awareness. You got to see what's going on to be able to actually change anything. Secondly, you need to realize your potential, and you need to know that everything exists as a potential. And just because you can think it means that there's a potential of it that exists at some level. And so knowing that potential can help you to open up your ability to use and try on different ideas. And then next is to study other people's ideas. Expose yourself to a lot of different ideas, even ones that might actually go against. And that's another cool little trick for you. If you're exposing yourself to new ideas and there's ones that you feel kind of almost offended by or you feel resistance towards, that's an opportunity for you, because that's showing you an area that you may have a closed belief about something. And so it's an opportunity. So yeah, exposing yourself to a lot of different ideas so that you can try on different ideas from other people, because you don't have to just come up with all these things yourself. You can use the thinking that other people have already done for you and the wisdom and experience that other people have already done for you to try on. Because you can take somebody that's experienced something for 10 years and has gained that wisdom through that whole process, and then they have developed ideas based on all their experience. Then you can just take those ideas and try them on without actually having to go through those 10 years of trial and error that person did to come up with those ideas. And this is how you literally can condense decades into days. And then next is to try the ideas on. So you expose yourself to the ideas, try them on, see how they work. But then try them on long enough to actually get a direct experience of them. But don't get so stuck to them that they become part of your dogma and they become a closed belief system that you close yourself off from other ideas. And realize that there's a difference between knowledge versus intellect. Intellect is, you just read something and you can regurgitate it, but it's not really, you don't really know, it's not an experience. Knowledge is gaining an actual experience by embodying that thing, by actually trying the thing, and then being able to create systems that support you to try that thing. Like the Life Magic Manifestation Planner is a system for you to be able to try ideas and get feedback from. So your homework, your assignment is simple. It's just to recognize one idea that you might be holding on to, and one that, and a good place to look is if there's an area of your life that you don't necessarily like the way that it's looking, it's not going well for you, or there that there's some improvement to be made there, or it's an area that's creating a lot of pain for you currently, that's a good place to look and recognize what stories are surrounding that area of your life or those circumstances, the situation in your life, and then start to ask yourself questions, just like I did when I was on my kind of healing journey. Is ask yourself questions, is that really true? Is there a possibility for something different? What would it look like if it was exactly what I wanted it to look like? What do I actually want? And then reverse engineering what questions you need to ask to get that answer, because answers are implied in the question. So the question is not what's the answer, the question is what's the right question to give me the answer that I want. So yeah, that's it, y'all. So try on new ideas and see the experience that they create for you, and use the ideas to create freedom in your life, but don't let them trap you. Ideas can use you, or you can use them. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I love being able to share this with you all. So thank you for sticking with me if you made it this far. And if you did make it this far, then this is for you. I know I'm talking to a real one. And if you want to take this a little deeper, check out every Thursday I host a webinar on basically how to connect with your soul and align with your purpose, kind of the fundamentals of this life magic process. And so if you're interested in into that, there should be a link in the description to go and register for that. And I look forward to seeing you there, because this is the next step. If you want to take things further, if you want to get deeper into this, that's the next step. So hope to see you there. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to sharing more with you very soon. Love you all. The journey is the way.